I don't like the world now. I mean, before I always knew I was a son of a bitch. But now I'm the only son of a bitch I know. Hey, make way for a real human being. Get out of the way, yeah.
Look out for Charlie.
I want that son of a bitch dead. I want him dead.
Last video I put out was called Masses of People Hearing Psychotronic Audio Weapons, and I predicted that this is going to pick up and pick up to where police are being affected by it, citizens are being affected by it more and more. And I want to get into that because I was going back over some stuff and found some very alarming things. Let's just jump right into it. Okay, it's imperative that you pay attention to the details. I showed this in the last video. It's called Hearing Voices Prompts Burglary Call, and it's from Graham County, Arizona. Graham County, burglars that may or may not have made a miraculous escape were the subject of a Graham County Sheriff deputy's report. A deputy was dispatched to Route 366, pay attention to that, Route 366, Friday, August 18th at about 2:30 a.m. after the property owner said he trapped would-be burglars in his storeroom by parking his truck in front of the only exit. He goes on to say that the deputy, with a Safford police officer as backup, entered the storeroom but found no one inside nor any signs of forced entry. The property owner said that when he went inside he heard voices, which made him run out of the storeroom and immediately move his truck to block the door. The owner said he must have moved too slow, allowing the would-be burglars to escape. The officers cleared the scene with no further action taken, so the guy was tricked into believing that people were in his storeroom because he heard voices. But it doesn't end there. I was doing some research into this. Now remember the key things that I pointed out. The burglary incident took place on August 22nd, 2023. Just happened. Now, man fires rifle at perceived intruder while bathing. This is from September 13th, 2023. Only a couple weeks afterwards. Graham County, the same county. Deputies with the Graham County Sheriff's Office were joined by officers with the Safford Police Department in responding to an early morning shooting on Tuesday, but no perpetrator could be found. Law enforcement officials were dispatched at about 6 a.m. to a residence of State Route 366, the same area, regarding a possible burglary with a single shot fired. Amazing, right? Amazing. Upon arrival, law enforcement interviewed the occupant, who said he was taking a bath when a man he knew broke into his house and was trying to cut the lock to his bathroom door. Now, why would he think he knew him? Because he was hearing his voice. The occupant said he then fired a shot through the door at his assailant, but the man ran away through the back door, according to his statement to police. Authorities located the apparent bullet hole, and the man showed his rifle that was in the bedroom. However, authorities could find no evidence that anyone had broke into the residence or had been there at all. This began happening in Michigan everywhere a while back. They did locate another apparent bullet hole in a window, which the occupant said had happened the previous night when his perceived assailant was trying to pull the cables and TV and he had fired at him. This is going on and on and on. Think about this. So one night, somebody hears a voice in a storeroom in that area, parks a truck in front of it. Weeks later, a guy thinks somebody's pulling the TV and the cables out of his house, shoots at it, and then thinks the door handle is being sawed off his door and shoots at it, and none of it is happening in the same area on the same road. Come on, man. Who's going to put this together? This is amazing. This is going to pick up and pick up and pick up until people cannot tell what is real and what isn't. And it's all going to be blamed on mental health. This is just like Adrian Quintal in Michigan. There's a bunch of these cases in Michigan, but Adrian Quintal left from the Detroit area and went up to her cabin and then called her friend and said that there were men outside and she was in a shootout. And when they came to try to find her, she was nowhere around, but her stuff was on the roof of the house. She had climbed out onto the roof and took off. And then they found her dead in a swamp like a week or two later. This keeps happening and happening and is driving people to do insane things. Now, I find it highly, highly suspect, beyond highly suspect, beyond coincidence that this keeps happening over and over to many, many people who own guns. Now, I would like to know how long this person had owned a gun. When was the last time they had their shit ran through the system to buy a gun before this began to happen to them? I'm very, very curious about that. Adrian Quintal with her gun in Michigan. Did she have a concealed carry permit? And what was the time period between Adrian Quintal possibly applying for a concealed carry permit and that happening? It is very, very suspect. It is beyond coincidence. There is something going on here. And I think you can figure out what. This isn't always somebody who owns a gun, but it is somebody who owns a gun a lot of the time. You know, I can hear it now, the Route 366, people trying to make bullshit up with the numerology and all that behind it. It is the area. Why is it the area? I don't know. But that part could be used as a distraction with this. What is really going on is important to note. Don't get caught up in the distractions that people try to play down in comment sections. These operators out there are working in overdrive right now. Working in overdrive, trying to steer the narrative any way they can. Trying to promote things that have a ascension arm to them. Anything that they can to get people back into the whole deceptive process of keeping this hidden. There are so many ridiculous claims made by those operators out there, whether that be the science of it, associating people that do not need to be associated together, anything that they can possibly do to control the narrative of what is going on here. And you do that out of fear. You don't do that when you're winning. I have even found them promoting my videos on other places out there, other platforms, but changing the message, changing the narrative just a little bit. Whatever it might be, as long as you believe that it's coming from a school, as long as you believe that it's coming from the neighbors, change the message just a little bit. This is what they do, so be aware of that. And when somebody is promoting somebody to you, like I'll notice they will come to the comment sections and promote a certain name over and over for 2 or 3 weeks. Then it'll be someone else, then someone else. And these are a bunch of different accounts all mentioning the same name. Pay attention to that. I want to get deeper into this article that I showed in the last video. It's called Doctors Gave Her Antipsychotics. She decided to live with her voices. And it's all about how these voices basically made her a Pavlovian dog, tricked her into doing things that she didn't want to do, and talked about surveillance and what she was doing. Let me go to a couple quotes that I showed you in the past video. Most of the voices that she heard would get her to do things like not raise her hand in class or do other things. And then the other ones talked about surveillance. Let's read this here. Another voice tracked her every move, its tone faintly mocking. She's getting out of bed now. Oh, she's walking down the hall now. I've said this many times, but if you can prove that a physical vibration, a sound, is really there, then the person is no longer mentally ill. Now, if you can capture a voice talking about surveillance, then these people are no longer mentally ill. And I did just that a couple months ago when I was testing out the SWAT rat. I picked up the signal talking about what I was doing in the house as a test. Now, I have to say it again, like I do in every video about this kind of stuff. I am not special. There's nothing special about me. This signal is everywhere. I was just testing the system and recording the system. So let's get into that really quick and let me show you that this is talking about surveillance to people. This is a clip from a video that I put out 3 months ago about the SWAT rat. And there is a lot more to release, but this proves that it is surveilling people with an actual audio signal. What I did was I set up a microphone in the hallway. Then I began to do things. I walked up and down the hall, accentuating my footsteps. It responds, and I knew it responded. I've known that for years, but I couldn't prove it. Here, I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to take 10 steps here. Let's listen to it. 10 steps. A voice is going to come in here that sounds like a broken speak and spell, and it's going to say 10 steps. That steps. 10 steps. That steps. That steps. But it gets better. It starts talking about my left foot. I do another trip down the hallway, okay? And then the voice comes in and says left foot, flat-footed. Check it out.
Left foot, flat-footed.
Left foot, flat-footed.
Flat foot.
Left foot,
Flat foot. Flat foot.
flat-footed.
Flat foot.
Now, if I was hearing this with my own ears and not in a recording, I would tell people it's talking about me. It's talking about what I was doing. I walked down the hall and it said I took 10 steps. I walked down the hall. I said I was flat-footed in my left foot. And they would diagnose me as a schizophrenic when the signal is actually there. If there is a voice in the room and somebody actually hears it, not in a recording like I did, but actually hears it, they are no longer mentally ill, period. We can prove this. And it's been proven that it's there. This woman is not schizophrenic. She's been probably driven to the point of madness by believing that she's schizophrenic. And the fear and bewilderment of these weapons when people go through the experience of being sensitized to them. My God. Now, the voice who had been with her the longest warned her of catastrophes coming for her family in Zionsville, a town north of Indianapolis. Calamities tied in some unspecific way to TV images from the Gulf War. Visions from God, right? This is the same shit, script-wise, that a million people have gone through. What was that guy's name that talked about it in a video that I did not too long ago?
The next thing I know, I wake up because I'm hearing like an old-time radio broadcast in the headphones. There's no way this could have happened because you had to flip a switch to even, go out. You remember how old stereos are? You go off of cassette onto radio or whatever. And the voices that I heard were so neutral. The background noises, everything was very neutral. Like there was no distinct accents to anything. If you had a cookie cutter of what a human being is, absolutely middle of the road, mediocre, just a voice. They were talking about cataclysms and these terrible things happening in the world. This broadcaster is talking and he says that he was trapped inside of a cave and that he could not get out of this cave. He was beginning to have near-death experiences and he was upset. Something tragic and terrible was happening in this broadcast. Now, as this is happening, there's a part of me that realizes that this is absolutely wrong. Everything that I'm hearing is wrong. This is not supposed to be happening at all. It is not normal for that to happen. So I knew immediately that this was not some broadcast. This was something much, much worse. And it started saying things like, we are coming through the walls. We are getting closer now. Kind of like this phase of ingratiation where something is presenting itself in such a way to traumatize you so that it can kind of sink its claws and make you obsess over it.
And that's exactly what it's for. He's correct about that. And this is exactly what she went through. There are only about a dozen scripts to all this shit. Plug and play characters, plug and play everything. The voice's warning of things coming is just ridiculous that people believe this anymore. I feel bad for her. I do. But it's beyond ridiculous to believe that this is somehow related to her mental health. I have so many examples of this recorded, it's ridiculous. Here's a voice that comes in and says, I know her victims. It says things like this all the time.
I know her victims. I know her victims.
Now this is the signal. This is what people are hearing. The signal is everywhere, and it can be implemented at any time. And when people are sensitized to it, they can hear it, and everybody else in the room will not hear it. The main ingredient to this weapon is ELF, and it rides on those frequencies. And you cannot stop ELF. If you try to stop ELF, it's like putting tissue paper in front of a semi, as I've always said. You cannot stop it. They are low vibrations. It's just like a car pumping, hip-hop down the road. You don't hear anything else, but you'll faintly hear that low end booming along because it travels further than anything else. Speaking of that kind of stuff, here is the voice that says something about attacks and then psyops.
Shack shows effects. Shack shows effects. Shack shows effects. Shack shows effects.
Then it says psyops.
Psyops, 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 psyops.
There's no debating this. A voice here will say, I'm in the hospital. Oh, weird. Now, this is the same type of stuff that these people hear.
Hospital.
Play hospital.
Hospital. Hospital. Hospital.
This is the kind of stuff that these people hear. It's all negative. It's all bad. And you can catch the audio. If you can catch the audio in the air, it's not in their minds. It's amazing. Here's this voice talking about people from another country. So you wonder where these people, get these ideas from. And you think that they're just making them up. There's a voice here that says, simply tell them that they're Cubans.
Simply tell them that they're Cubans. Simply tell them that they're Cubans.
In this voice, another paranoid negative voice, it says they're convinced they're him. Well, I don't even know what that means, but it's there. And if somebody is hearing this with their own ears, it is going to implant some type of negative thought.
I'll play convinced they're him.
It is mind-blowing to me. This has all been documented and proven. And since the reach is being stepped on, the reach of this channel is being stepped on, people cannot move forward. People cannot progress. They cannot realize that it's artificial because it is being held back.
Come on, do Nazi stuff.
Look out for Charlie.